think we can all agree, and Warren Buffett, I believe, said this, that under the current economy, balling out is becoming a little bit more difficult. Current economic pressures make stunting a little bit harder than it used to be. And that's why this episode we're talking about balling on a budget. We're talking about 7 cars that I found for under $10,000 that are really, really cool. And I'm not just talking about 7 I randomly found. I mean that these are cars that you could probably find by the time you're listening to this podcast. It's December 2025. Obviously, this isn't going to hold up for, 2, 3, 4 years. But if you're listening right now, you can probably find, and I found a lot of these cars on eBay. Believe it or not, eBay Motors, our sponsor. eBay has reinvented vehicle buying from click to curb. Everything's covered with their new secure purchase. eBay isn't just where you find your car, it's where you buy it, start to finish. Title, financing, registration, delivery, it's all built in. And eligible vehicle purchases are backed by up to $100,000 in protection. This is what modern car buying looks like. Get your next ride on eBay. eBay, things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Caramel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary. Good news, everyone. We're not going to even need close to that $100,000 in purchase protection because we are hard stopping at 10 grand. Let me give you kind of my mindset for this episode. When I was 16 years old, my dad said that if I made good grades, he would give me a small amount of money to buy a car with. I think I ultimately got about $5,000 back in, roughly the year 2000. So what did I do? I for $5,000 in the year 2000, sure, I could have bought like a used Civic or something, and it would have been responsible. But instead, I did something totally idiotic because I wanted to drive a cool car. Like I wanted to have a cool car. So what do? I buy a 1966 Ford Mustang. The classic Mustangs were made from 64 and a half to 1973. And the 66, I believe, was the most populous of them. Like you find more 66s. Plus, they shared parts with really, I think, everything through 68. But there was a lot of commonality, especially with 65 and 66. So I buy one for $2,500, and it's got 120,000 miles on it. Got a little bit of rust on it, so I learned how to use Bondo. Dead serious. I learned how to replace the carpet, replace the interior, which I did myself. A few $100 on a Mako paint job after I did the body work. A few $100 on like a 6-disc CD changer, some upgraded audio, maybe from Crutchfield. I had no air conditioning in this car, and I went to school in Pensacola, Florida, where it can be 100 degrees in the summer, but I did not care because I thought it was awesome. Everyone saw that I drove a classic Mustang, and it was fun. Like for me, it was more fun. I don't remember being hot, sweating my butt off in my car, although I'm certain I did. But I just remember like the good memories I have of like, going to house parties on weekends and being like a guy with a cool car, like with a 1960 something Mustang. No one cared really that it was a 200 cubic inch straight 6. Because it was cool. And that's what I'm trying to do for you guys in this video. How can we get a cool car on a tight budget? It's doable. It is very doable, as you will see. Before we get into the cars, a couple of ground rules here. First of all, this is not financial advice. If you're behind on child support checks, you do not need to be shopping for a 90,000 mile Boxster to cruise to the Roman coin in Milwaukee on the weekends. A lot of these cars can be expensive to maintain. That's part of the deal. Like, look, if you just need a car and you don't want to run into any hiccups with maintenance, you need something to get you to your job without any drama, do that, please. I'm begging you. Don't try to buy one of these cars. Number 2, I'm only going to do one JDM car in this video. JDM, currently Japanese domestic manufacturer. It's the easy button for cool cars under 10 grand with how strong the dollar is against the yen. But it can introduce its own set of complications, including registration in your state, importing, exporting, insurance. So I don't want this to be a JDM episode. I can do one if you'd be interested. But in the meantime, I'm only going to mention one. And finally, perhaps most importantly, confidence is very important. A car is only as cool as the person driving it. Sure, if you've got 6 figures, 7 figures, something ridiculous to throw at a car because you're some kind of software developer or something, and you're a total nerd, you can go out and pick up like a brand new Porsche. Just go to the Porsche dealership and buy anything you want, or buy something really awesome like an NSX, and that'll make up for your lack of personality. But with a sub $10,000 car, a little bit of confidence is key. If you're not into cars, I'm assuming you are if you're listening to this podcast, they're going to be able to see through that and see that you just bought a car to be a cool dude. Buy it because you like it. That's what makes these cars cool. You. And you're a bunch of cool guys because you're listening to the Automotive Icons podcast, and I'm appreciative for that. Now, let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start with conservative picks. We're going to get a little bit wilder as this episode goes on. So with that in mind, the most conservative pick I have for you for a cool car under 10 grand is a Lexus IS-300, introduced in 1998 in Japan as the Toyota Altezza, which is Italian, by the way, Altezza for, and I'm sure it's probably like Altezza or something, but it's Italian for highness. The Altezza is kind of a funny linguistic story, a little bit of irony, as both Lexus and Altezza are awkward in Japanese because there's no hard L in Japanese. So Lexus is like Rexasu, and Altezza, I think, is like Arutetsu. But Lexus branding was for export markets anyways. The Altezza name, that stayed JDM. It was the IS-300 in the US. The first generation IS-300 from 2001 to 2005. Found a great example on eBay Motors right now. 2002 model with 85,000 miles for $8,500. Genuinely low for a 20-plus year old daily driver. By Toyota standards, this car is barely broken in. You're going to look more at like age-related wear, wearing the pedals and the interior, stuff like that. Not necessarily mechanical issues with these cars, especially because if I remember correctly, I believe they use the 2JZ-GE, a naturally aspirated bulletproof engine from the same engine family as the Toyota Supra, the Toyota Crown, your hallmark Toyota engines that are going to be able to survive whatever neglect you or the prior owners can throw at it. It's going to be durable. You're going to get an automatic. I think they did make these in manual, but I bet for under 10 grand, you're getting an automatic. That's okay. This was the smallest and cheapest Lexus whenever it was introduced, mainly to compete with the 3 Series, BMW 3 Series. But it was very important for the brand at the time. It won a ton of comparison test awards. Lexus, they were proven that they could do like a sporty, compact car that wasn't driven by your high school buddy's mom who married a surgeon. I think we all had that in high school. Right? Related to that, the round taillights, like kind of the trademark Altezza style taillights, very early 2000s tuner era, a little bit of Fast and Furious vibes, and that could maybe read the wrong way as like a midlife crisis if you're buying one of these and you're 47 years old, because it's not very subtle. It's very era specific. It's very specific to this car. So I'm going to say that this is maybe a good budget pick for you guys out there, like maybe 30 and under. Might be pushing it if you're in your 30s. That's our baseline car. This one's easy. It's going to be pretty reasonable to maintain. Everything on this list, everything else is going to require a little bit more confidence, a little bit more tolerance for risk. Like on the riskometer out of 10, this is like a 2 out of 10. So it's a pretty conservative pick, but it's still pretty cool, and you can get one for under 10 grand. Next, let's go to its competitor, which is a little bit more risky, the BMW 3 Series. I'm going to say the 5th generation, like the E9X series, E90, E92, E93. This was sold from 2005 to 2013. The 3 Series has always been one of BMW's smaller cars, but it's still a BMW, right? And here's the trick. We talked about confidence. It takes a little bit of confidence to pull off a BMW 3 Series, but not too much. No one wants that. Well, I drive a BMW energy, especially, no one likes it ever, but if you're driving like the least expensive BMW you can buy, you certainly can't play that card, just to throw that out there. But you still got to be confident because this is like a half step more manly than a Miata. I mean, you're still talking about a tiny BMW. I don't see a problem with it. I would totally own one of these. In fact, doing the research for this video, I almost convinced myself to buy one. Why is that? BMWs always retain like car cultural value. Every BMW, even when prices dip, well, except maybe the SUVs, right? You can buy a 3 Series, you can maintain it, you can hold on to it. It's still going to be relevant decades later. There's always a market for clean BMWs. Most cars kind of dip hard in value and in coolness 10 to 20 years after they come out. But then the clean ones, the survivors, they'll rebound, right? Like 25, 30 years later. So I think this is the right time to buy this one. It's not near the peak. This is a car that you age into, not out of. So it's kind of the inverse of the IS-300 like we just talked about. Talking about that interrelationship between like the Lexus and the BMW 3 Series, the IS-300, the BMW 3 Series. This is a German car designed by a Japanese guy. A guy by the name of Joji Nagashima designed this car, and I think he did a great job. He had designed multiple BMWs from this era, and it paid off. This was BMW's best-selling model worldwide. They sold roughly 200,000 plus units per year. 230,000 units in 2005 alone worldwide. It won a large number of awards. It won comparison tests, strong safety ratings for a car this era, a luxury car. By all objective measures, a very good car. The current market reality here, you can find, like I said, examples on eBay Motors for under 10 grand. You can realistically find 50 to 60,000 mile cars, which is not too bad. I would say even low for like a 20-year-old BMW of this age. For the engine choice, I'm saying get a 328i. It uses the BMW N52 inline-six engine, which is naturally aspirated, about 230 horsepower, much simpler, more reliable than the turbocharged engines from this era. I mean, this engine won a bunch of awards. I think it's regarded as being pretty reliable, but it's not going to be like cheap to maintain. It's still a German car. I would frame this as like a smart BMW, not a sexy BMW. It's going to be fast enough. It's going to be comfortable. It's still a BMW, right? You know, you still, those 3 little letters are going to impress someone. This probably isn't going to be as reliable as, say, the Lexus, and you have to worry about, you're not going to have to worry about parts, right? I mean, you know, they sold 1 million of these things, maybe more than 1 million. So parts availability is going to be okay. The only thing that's scary is you're going to pay German car shop prices. Like I remember there was one called Durmeister in Tallahassee. This is like 20 years ago. And I remember at the time they were charging $80 an hour. It's like, oh my God. And that's what it is. I mean, that's the reality of it. And that's not the only German car that we have. So it's not the last time you're going to hear me say it. All right, here's my favorite one. The Toyota Crown. You're looking at the JZS 150, JZS 170 generation, late 90s, early 2000 Crowns. I own a JZS 170, and I think it's one of the coolest cars in the entire world. In Japan, they have a saying where they say, someday a crown, right? It's aspirational. They're luxury sedans. If you're in the United States, because of the 25-year import rule, the newest one you're going to be able to find is going to be year 2000, soon 2001. This car wasn't designed for export. It's going to be right-hand drive. If you've ever been to Japan, you've seen 1 million of them. They're everywhere, especially taxi cabs. Now, they have different trim levels. That's one thing to keep in mind. You've got like the very simple ones. I think they call them like the deluxe, all the way up to what I have, which is like the Royal Saloon G, or some people will place like the Majesta or the Athlete. The Majesta being the V8 version, the Athlete being the turbocharged version. As being kind of above, like in the top tier of Toyota Crowns. But this is what I love about it. I did a video on it on my personal channel, Jim Ports, if you want to go over there and see my full review. But mine has a little refrigerator in the back that only works when the car's on. You can put like a 6-pack in there if you want, of Coca-Cola, Mr. Pibb, right? It's got adjustable rear seats. Like you can recline the rear seats, leather, wood grain. Great stereo system for a car. Mine's a 99 or a 2000. Great stereo system with a tape player and a 12-disc CD changer. Nav kit. It's got a privacy screen in the rear window that rolls up. In the back seat, there's a console that flips out where you can adjust the climate control. If you're the passenger, you can adjust climate control. You can adjust the radio from this little console in the back. You can actually adjust the passenger seat in front of you if you're sitting in the back. Like, you're sitting in the back and then someone's sitting up front and they're taking up too much room. You want a little bit more space. You just scooch them on up, buddy, because it's probably your car. If you're lucky, you'll get the lacy, like the little lacy seat covers that come from Japan. But you will not find these. You can find them on the secondhand market, but people have already marked up. Now, here's the truth of the matter. These are bulletproof cars. They are luxury cars. They put some Mercedes, some BMWs, Lexuses of the same year to shame. These are opulent cars. My wife loves it. They drive super well. They're not slow. They get great gas mileage. The Crown uses that 1JZ, 2JZ engine, that reliable engine that we were talking about, that's similar to what's in the IS-300 and similar to what's in the Toyota Supra, although they're not identical. It shares a lot mechanically with the Lexus GS300. You can get these serviced. Like I just had a complete fluids change, radiator flush, brake system flush, all done at the local shop for a few $100, like a full fluid zero out after I imported it, because everyone can work on them. They can get oil filters, they can get air filters, whatever, because it shares a lot of components with the GS300. These are cool cars. And the right-hand drive. Everyone kind of looks twice. If you want to get one, if you find one in the U.S. that's already been imported, titled, everything, that makes things a lot easier, right? But you're also going to pay markup for that. I think all said and done, after duties and taxes and everything, I think I'm in somewhere between $7,000 to $8,000 on mine, and mine is mint. I mean, I can think of like the one or two flaws that this car has off the top of my head, and it's 75,000 kilometers. Call it like 50,000 miles, which is nothing. Like my nephews are going to die before this car does. So you can get them for well under $10,000, and you can get a really good one. Now, what I will say, again, you're either going to have to get a mileage one that you're going to pay more mileage for if somebody's already done all the legwork for you. If you're going to import one, I recommend Aaron Ross at Bulldog Auto Japan. That's who I use, and he does a phenomenal job. And that's who actually located and purchased this one for me. I pay more in insurance for this Toyota Crown than I do for my Porsche 911, just because people don't know what it is. So it's like, I will mention that. I think it's something you should be aware of. But other than people maybe getting a little intimidated whenever you bring it to the shop, where it's like, whoa, I don't know what that is. If you can handle right-hand drive, which I don't see any reason why you couldn't, these cars are wonderful. They're fantastic. Risk score 3 to 4 out of 10, because I'm saying, like, you might buy it, you might get it and be like, oh man, I can't afford the insurance. Or if maybe there's a proprietary item that's very important that you can't get, I could see that as being a problem. But then again, they made so many of these cars. They're all over the place in Japan. So I can imagine if you looked hard enough, you could get whatever you needed. But this is probably my top pick. If you're willing to go through the hassle, or if you're willing to pay a little bit extra and get one that's already been imported and registered, you're going to love this car, and so is everyone else who rides in it with you. They're just cool. All right, next, you knew I had to have a Porsche on the list, the 924, 944. These are your late 70s, early 90s front engine, rear transaxle layout, because they've got this more conventional layout. They have near perfect 50-50 weight distribution. They're famous for their balance and their handling, not for their speed. They are not fast cars. I have a 944. I love it. I think it's one of the coolest cars, especially with the flip-up headlights. This was like Porsche's affordable car back in the day. The 924 was originally an Audi VW project that I think they sold to Porsche, or Porsche just decided to take it on. And then Porsche eventually evolves this car into the 944, which had a wider body, much better looking hips. It was a much cooler looking car, and it used a Porsche specific motor, unlike the kind of like Audi Volkswagen motor from the 924. These were the best selling Porsches of the era, and I believe the best selling until the Boxster came out. They're much more durable than people assume. They think, oh, like German car, like this thing's got to be junk. Not true. I talked to Nathan Mers. He is the chair of valuation for Porsche Club of America, one of the most knowledgeable individuals that I know when it comes to Porsches, and he says these are incredibly reliable. 100,000 plus, 200,000, 300,000 miles, no problem as long as you're on top of the maintenance. These naturally aspirated engines they use, pretty solid. Timing belt service and maintenance, critical. I didn't say optional. I said critical, because you can blow this engine up. You will have a complete failure with this car if you don't stay on top of the timing belt. So what's the reality? Well, under $10,000, if you want a 944, which is a much cooler car and more Porsche than a 924, you're going to expect like north of 100,000, like 100 to 150,000 miles, depending on what it is. But the condition and the maintenance matter more than the odometer. Well-documented car with 125,000 miles on it, absolutely serviceable, and it beats a 60,000 mile car with no paperwork. 924 and the 944, they're similar-ish. Engines are fundamentally different. The 924 used that Volkswagen Audi-derived inline-4, originally designed for Audi, not Porsche. I think some of them are carbureted, and eventually the 924s became fuel-injected. But they're reliable, they're inexpensive to keep running, not very powerful, feels more like a German economy car. It's like the German Datsun. And a lot of Porsche guys, like, they get physically ill when a working class human being owns a Porsche, because, you know, it's not cool. So there's this kind of, it's not a real Porsche stigma, if that bothers you, which it absolutely should not. But you can still find parts for these. They're still relatively easy to work on, durable if maintained. The 924s are the least exciting Porsche, except maybe for the 914, which I kind of despise, but that's a different story. I found this gorgeous nougat brown. This is like one of the old school, like 70s, 80s colors. It's really cool with color match phone dial wheels with 70,000 miles, a 924 for I think $8,000. Forget about BMW maintenance. There's like a Porsche premium if you bring it to the shop, and they are super expensive, but you could also learn to maintain them. These are definitely cool cars, the 924 and the 944 both. You can definitely find one for under $10,000, but man, own one of these for like 4 or 5 years, you will probably be another $10,000 into maintenance. I mean, I think the cheapest timing belt job, if you don't do it yourself, is going to be about $1,500, and you have to do it every 4 years to 40,000 miles. That's the maintenance schedule. But like I said, we're getting a little bit wilder. Now we're going to get really wild. We're going to talk about the Cadillac Allante.
Cadillac introduces Allante.
There's a new spirit.
Produced from 1987 to 1993. This was a two-door, two-seat luxury roadster from Cadillac, the first Cadillac Roadster in over 50 years. It used Cadillac chassis, Cadillac running gear, Cadillac engines, folding soft top. It had an optional removable hard top. But here's where things get sexy. The bodies were designed and built, not just designed and built in Italy by Pininfarina. Now, Pininfarina, if you're not familiar, is an Italian design house. They have designed some of the most elegant, most beautiful cars that you've ever seen. And I think they did a great job with the Allante. It's a little conservative, but it's still a cool car, and you can buy one for under $10,000 right now. Interesting point of fact, GM had thousands of designers and engineers at the time this car was developed in the 80s. Sergio Pininfarina, he designed this car personally. And I think it was Haggerty that reported that the engineers were quote, hurt. GM engineers were hurt that GM didn't believe enough in its own designers and own engineers that they had to farm this out to really like the Leonardo da Vinci of car design. Which I think, look, at the end of the day, this guy's running a firm that's named after him. And so settle down, designers from GM. I'm sure it probably was upsetting to have this fun project get farmed out. But, good grief. Pininfarina is about one of the best designers out there. Also funny, the name Allante was chosen by a computer right? In the 80s, that was a big deal. It's like AI now. I think people just don't even question it. It's just so high tech. It's like you don't even understand the origin of the technology, so you buy into it. Man, what a stupid name for this car. Chuck, where'd you guys get this name from? Well, Bill, it came from the computer. Oh, it came from the computer. And, we're talking about like 1980s Apple green screen computer. And the computer picked Allante. And because Pininfarina designed these cars and built them, they had something famous called the Allante Air Bridge. And that's where something like 56 bodies, Allante bodies at a time, were being flown from Italy to Detroit on a single 747. And then they were being final assembled in Detroit, often called the longest assembly line in the world, which is cool. But because of this, they produced only about 21,000 cars. So not a whole heck of a lot, 3,000 per year. Always a low volume, high image car. The original base price, $54,700 in 1987, but that would be over $150,000 in 2025 dollars. The only real option that you had in the first few years was a cell phone, which is, in hindsight, hilarious and awesome. These were high-tech cars, all electronic controls and dash. I think you did have, some of them had options for analog dashboards. They came with Recaro seats, the same supplier as Porsche. This was Cadillac's global luxury halo. Had a wild warranty for the time because everyone was a little worried. It's like, ooh, I don't know about this Italian car. 7 years, 100,000-mile bumper-to-bumper, which is wild for the 80s. It was 3 years longer than all other Cadillacs, so they actually had a longer warranty than their other cars. Owners got a dedicated toll-free concierge number they could call. All of this, and they're virtually unheard of as we sit here today. You can buy one for under $10,000. I want to buy one now. I probably would spend more than $10,000 because $10,000 is going to get you about 60 to 80,000 miles on it, which isn't bad, but you're talking about low volume cars. Italian design plus American luxury doesn't make a whole lot of sense on paper. If you want a cool car for under $10,000 and you feel confident, then maybe you can get lucky with one of these. But I think the styling's cool even today, and you can say that about, I think, most Pininfarinas. No one under age 53 even knows what this car is or has heard of it. So it's definitely unique. It's flashy enough, but it's not over the top, except for the red ones. And the real problem is red, it was Euro red is what it was called, was the most produced color of this car. So all the ones right now on eBay Motors that are under $10,000 are bright red. And I think that's unfortunate because I think it looks terrible. I think the white ones, the gold ones, the blue ones, I hear the light blue ones. I read on the Wikipedia article, the light blue ones are the rarest ones. But I think that these are neat cars. You're going to have to worry about all this proprietary electronics. I'd be really shocked if you have one that has the cell phone option. It still works. But how cool would that be? Not very sporty cars, but I think it was the last year production, like in 93, where they dropped that North Star engine. I think my dad had a Cadillac DeVille with a North Star engine in it, and you got like a 3-digit horsepower upgrade. So maybe those last year cars might be a little bit powerful, a little bit speedier. But at the end of the day, you're not buying this because it's fast. You're buying it because it's cool. I would be wary of buying one of these just because they're low production, but they did use American Cadillac parts and components. I would say that it's still a relatively safe bet. It's also an American production car. You can probably get it insured. It's not a bad car. It's a little weird. I'm going to give this, though, like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 in the danger scale, like how risky this is. But this is a piece of automotive history. They're cool cars. They're neat. You probably have never even heard of one, much less seen one. You're going to have like a limited one of 21,000 cars designed by one of the best Italian design houses out there, and that's why I think it belongs on this list. A word from our sponsor, eBay Motors. Ever try to buy a car and end up in a parking lot with a stranger in some blind trust? Or spend half the day at a dealership talking to pushy salespeople and signing paperwork? Or maybe worst of all, waiting for hours at the DMV just to transfer a title? That era is over. For years, eBay has been the go-to for gearheads, collectors, and do-it-yourselfers because whatever you're into, From classics to SUVs, trucks to imports, eBay's got it. And now with Secure Purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your next ride, it's where you can buy it start to finish. Sellers and titles are verified, paperwork is handled by experts, and payments are traceable and digital, so you know exactly who you're dealing with and exactly what you're getting. Plus, you can finance, insure, and register your vehicle all in one place. No more hours at the dealership, no more trips to the DMV. Get your vehicle, plates, and paperwork shipped to your door, ready to drive, and it's all part of one seamless process designed to feel as easy as buying anything else online. And eligible vehicles purchased on eBay are backed by up to $100,000 in purchase protection. Thinking about selling your ride? Secure Purchase makes that simple too, because you know your buyer and their funds are verified. If you still owe on your car, the financing payoff is fully integrated, so you're not chasing paperwork or waiting on checks to clear. And with Secure Purchase, you get paid fast, and you're not going to be stuck chasing no-shows or answering the fifth still available email message. This is what modern car buying looks like. Skip the DMV, skip the sketchy meetups, buy it on eBay. eBay, things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Caramel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary. Next, and I remember these very fondly, Fox Body Mustangs. 1979 and 1993, these are those smaller Mustangs like Vanilla Ice, rolling in my 5.0. Top drop down so my hair can blow. That's what we're talking about. But really what I'm talking about is 1987 and 1993. That's when they did a restyle. The pre-87 Fox bodies were actually kind of gross. They're basically like Mercury Capris, not super cool cars. But when they redesigned and did like the full aero body in 1987, that's when things got really awesome. That's when it got wild. They had a massive generational run, huge cultural footprint, light cars with massive 5-liter V8 engines, massive for the size of the car. Here's the problem for you guys looking for one for under 10 grand. They're on the come up big time. Velocity Systems, if you're familiar with them, they have done a version that was at SEMA, and it was gorgeous. Incredible car. I think it was a notchback that they wanted $300,000 for. So these are majorly on the come up because these are the Mustangs that kind of rebuilt American performance credibility. Lightweight, simple, honest rear-wheel drive layout with powerful engines. And I remember when these were not cool anymore. I remember when they were not cool, I think like when I was in high school. They were definitely in the trough. My buddy Kevin Krieger, I hope he's listening to this, my buddy Kevin Krieger's dad. Kevin Krieger's dad was not Vanilla Ice, is what I'll say. He did a very good job of maintaining his car, but he wasn't like cool dad, right? And those are the kind of guys that owned them. And you know who else owned them, which is part of the problem, are the people who thought they were cool whenever they came out. You're talking about guys that might have been like drag racing these through school zones. So that's something you should be aware of. Also with the $10,000 budget, again, because they're on the come up, you're looking at convertibles and automatics, guys. The coupes, clean 5.0 cars, they're gone. It's not going to happen. Like, you're going to pay through the nose. If you want like a fastback, hatchback, notchback 5.0, convertibles right now with automatics are right now at the last affordable entry point. You're buying this because it's cool, not because it's fast. Convertible, you can land one for 10 grand with under 60,000 miles. I think realistically, I found some on eBay Motors. If you want the 5.0, if you insist on a 5.0, you want like a notchback or a fastback, you can get it. It's going to be over 100,000 miles. But the good news is these are pretty easy to service engines. I mean, this was the prolific 302 5-liter V8 in the GTs and the 5.0s. Earlier 80s cars, if you're interested, if you like the look, I mean, I'm ragging on them a bit. I don't think they look great with like the 4 box headlights and the Mercury Capri overlap. But because of that, they also sell cheaper than like the post 87. Mileage, I would pay less attention to than rust and how well maintained it is, how hacked up it is. Has it been tuned? You can fix everything in this car with like a Summit Racing catalog. So that's on the upside. Convertibles make sense here because they're still fun, right? Vanilla Ice had one. If you guys, that makes me so old. You guys probably don't even know who Vanilla Ice is, most of you. But it's still a Mustang. It's still fast. It's still peak Americana, 80s, 90s, American car culture. And that's what makes it cool. And that's why you've got Velocity selling one for $300,000. I'm going to give this a 5 to 6 out of 10 on the risk scale. Not because it's fragile, but because the people who own them were Mustang owners in like the late 80s and early 90s. You know, I know that certain of these cars may have been garage queens, but I don't think, I think you had these guys putting on their jean jackets, going out to the movie theater to find guys to drag race. So fellas, I'm going to slam the book shut on this episode pretty hard with the last pick. That's going to be a 5th generation 1970 to 1979 Lincoln Continental. I owned one of these. I owned a 1977 Lincoln Continental, the 5th generation. Peak American full-size luxury sedan. The only thing that comes close, in my opinion, is going to be something like the Cadillac DeVille, you know, like a 70s Cadillac. The 1977, like I owned, 1977 to 1979 Lincolns are the longest automobiles ever produced by Ford Motor Company. Maybe the longest automobiles, like production automobiles, ever produced. They are physically enormous by any standard. These are massive vehicles. When they did a small redesign, I think it was like adding impact bumpers in 1977, it made it the largest mass market automobile produced in the entire world, not in America, anywhere in the world that normal people could buy, that you could go into a car lot and buy. Also, lowest fuel economy, I think, ever. You're talking single-digit fuel economy, lowest fuel economy of any production car. You mash on the gas, I think you can watch that fuel gauge visibly drop like a stopwatch. It doesn't sip. It's a guzzler. It is consuming it. But you're getting a lot out of it, right? Because these are cool cars. They're incredible cars. 1974 four-door sedan, base price of $8,200, roughly 53 grand in today's money. They sold a tremendous amount of these cars. 30,000 sold in 1974 alone. So when they were new, they weren't really rare or exotic. They were mainstream luxury. These were powered by the storied 460 cubic inch Ford V8, one of Ford's most common big block engines that was used across multiple platforms, including the Continental, the Lincoln Mark series. Super durable, great parts availability. This is not a responsible car to buy. I'm telling you, it's very comfortable. I mean, sitting inside of it, the front seat, bench seat, back seat, bench seat, cushions you could fall into. I mean, if stuff falls out of your pockets, you're going to be reaching into your elbows to pull it out of the cushions because they were so luxurious, so opulent. And the doors, too, like the door panels, carpeted door panels. I had a 77 Bill Blass edition. It was navy blue and white two-tone with white leather interior and blue piping. And my God, was this car incredible. But I remember one night, like the summer after law school, getting 8 people comfortably in the front and the back seat. Guys and girls I went to school with. Everybody had a great time. Flip-up headlights are really neat on the Porsche 944, but the hidden, like the trap door headlights on this car are even cooler. This car is swagged out. You're talking peak, stereotypical 1970s luxury excess. I think it even had like little windows. Some of them did in the rear pillars. It looks expensive even when it's not moving. Super comfy interior. In 1979, and this is sad but true, 1979, Ford explicitly marketed this as the last traditional full-size American sedan. That was the end of the line. That's when everything got downsized. You had fuel economy, you had regulations, safety regulations changing everything. These were produced in massive numbers, 614,151 Lincoln Continentals from 1970 to 1979, so they're pretty easy to find. They're not rare, but they are becoming less common. Survivors, they're like novelty cars. Again, they're really cool. They're really serviceable. They're definitely ownable as long as you don't have a long commute because the fuel economy is atrocious. The handling's pretty terrible. It's hard to park these in a regular parking spot, not going to lie. Braking is adequate. But this car, again, you're talking about a piece of history, the logical end of American excess in automobiles. You can get a very nice one with 75,000 miles or less for well under $10,000. I think that this is one of the coolest cars you can buy. I mean, look, if you don't have a long commute, if you got a large garage, you got a large parking spot, you're not a little self-conscious, you ain't going to parallel park this thing, I tell you that much. So depending on where you live, it may or may not make sense. But we're talking about a 5 out of 10 risk score. It's not a fragile car, but everything's old. The car's large. It's thirsty. Rust, maintenance, just general cosmetic upkeep. Like, you're going to want to keep this garaged if you can. Mine was getting rust bubbles, and that becomes really expensive really fast and negatively impacts the value of the car. If you're worried about fuel economy, this ain't the car for you. My wife's an environmental lawyer. I think if I bought one of these again in 2025, she'd probably set it on fire. But if you want something with some personality, this one's got a boatload of it, because it is a boatload, and it is Ballin on a budget. Every car on this list, some sort of trade-off. Bad fuel economy, difficult to insure, possible maintenance nightmares or expense like those Porsches, right? None of them perfect, but that's the point. We're trying to get it done for under 10 grand. If you're looking for like the smartest, cheapest, easiest, most efficient way to get from point A to point B, this episode obviously was not really for you. This is for you guys who want something different, who want something unique, who want to buy that $2,500 Mustang with 120,000 miles on it with no air conditioning in Northwest Florida, because you wanted something different. You wanted something that was more exciting as a car, because you love cars, but you can't necessarily afford something higher than 10 grand. That's what this video is about. There's still options out there under 10 grand. Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, let me know what you think I missed. Guys, I'll see you next time, and thank you to our sponsor, eBay Motors. Take care.